Welcome to the Life with Joey Cavo podcast. I am Joey Cavo. Today I have an awesome guest today. I have Dr. Michelle Maidenberg. She maintains a private practice in Harrison, New York, where she works with individuals, families, and couples. She works with children age 8 and above, adolescents, teens, and adults. Michelle is the co-founder and clinical director of Through My Eyes, a nonprofit 501c3 organization that offers free clinically guided videotaping to chronically medically ill individuals who want to leave video legacies for their children and loved ones. She is also an adjunct faculty at NYU, teaching graduate course in mindfulness practice. Michelle is the board of directors at the Boys and Girls of Mount Vernon. She is a member of the American Red Cross Crisis Team and serves on the board of directors of the Westchester Trauma Network in Westchester, New York. Children First. And Institute, an institute at Fordham University, whose mission is to support mental health professionals in delivering excellent care for children and families. Presented Michelle with an award appreciation of service. Michelle, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely.
Especially on a leap day. So
Yes.
I didn't go too much further on, how you got to where you're at right now. So tell us the story of how Michelle Maidenberg became Dr. Michelle Maidenberg.
So, yes, I, come from a long lineage, I'm going to say, of intergenerational trauma. So it all started there. I think I naturally just kind of developed into the person I am today just because of everything I had to endure and, witness and experience. So my grandparents, all four of my grandparents are Holocaust survivors, and most of their families, unfortunately, were murdered in Czechoslovakia at the time. So as I was growing and developing and maturing, I heard stories from when I was a little girl about the war and about all the atrocities that my grandparents went through, particularly one grandmother. She would talk a lot about the war and about her experiences and her trauma. And again, at that time, I didn't know what she was talking about. I just used to listen to it and I didn't even realize, I think, how it was affecting me or where it was going in my nervous system or what that even meant to me at the time. Of course, years later, and especially now with what's going on in the world, I'm definitely feeling it a lot more, recognizing how it might have affected me as a child, just hearing all of that information and not even recognizing it. Then as I, grew, my parents divorced when I was 3, which is pretty young. And there was a lot of definitely uncertainty and lack of groundedness. And, I never knew when the other shoe was going to drop, a lot of arguments and frustrations over the years. And I could go on and on and on. But I think I naturally developed into the person that, became a natural caregiver and somebody who people felt comfortable speaking to. I'm also, just personality wise, I'm an empath. So I feel very deeply other people's emotions. So again, that also leads me to, to be in the profession that I'm in. And I always knew what I wanted to do from early on. Even as a child, in high school, I took AP psychology, and I won an award. Actually, that was literally like winning an Academy Award. I was so excited because I won a psychology award in high school. And that was it. That was my journey always.
Okay. All right. So you author these books, Free Your Child from Overeating, 53 mind-body strategies for lifelong health, and Ace Your Life, Unleash Your Best Self, and Live the Life You Want. And we're gonna go with the Ace Your Life because right now I'm kind of going through, and I'm this has been going on for a couple episodes now of the podcast, and I've had a lot of people try to help me because right now I'm at a point where I kind of gave up. I stopped looking forward. And I stopped looking forward because I had been hurt so much in the past. And plus, something happened in my past that prevents me, or it doesn't, it's not that it prevents me, but I make itself prevent me from going forward. Because if I turned around and said what it was, like people that I know would be like, why am I even talking to you anymore? Why am I still, affiliated with you in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah,
So,
it sounds like you feel a lot of shame around it.
well, it is, and then the last guest the second to last guest I had, I mean, got me in a positive mood. I mean, I was positive for a couple days. And I mean, that person was great. I mean, you know, and then I had someone else who actually was the one that actually kind of quote unquote opened up my eyes to make me see this reality that was going on. And once I saw that this reality was going on, I said, you know what, I'm done. I can't make it any better. I can't make it any worse. I don't want to make it any worse. And like I said, I put that barrier right there. And I kind of turned around and said, you know what? I'm giving up. And it got to the point where last Tuesday, no, last Tuesday, I got home. I had gone to the doctors. I had doctors all day. And I said, I'm done. I was frustrated, etc. And it got to the point where I got home, and not even 15 minutes after I got home, I actually got a call from the National Suicide Hotline, thinking I was going to commit suicide. There was no thought in my mind of suicide at all, none. But because of all the posts I was putting on Facebook, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're in a crisis mode." No, I wasn't. If I was in a crisis mode, I think I would know. It was just a stress, and I've learned that social media is a stressing thing, but I had to go back because I had some apps on my phone that kind of work with Facebook, so I had to kind of give myself back into it. But I turned around and I said, and the first rule I literally said is, if you're going to talk about my mental health, go out that door, because I don't want to know it. Because I do go to a therapist. I'm not ashamed to say that. I am going to a therapist about it. And I told my therapist the same thing that I just said. I kind of gave up. And yes, Lisa, I will let her speak too.
I was wondering about that too, but anyway.
I'm sorry. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
Why in reference to it, and then leading into the book, Unleashing Your Best Self. And now now I was going to turn it to you.
Okay. But what would you like for me to answer? Because you said a lot.
Yeah. Well, talk about the book mainly.
Okay. Yeah. And just to tie it in a little bit, I want to say, I think what you're talking about is very deep helpless and hopelessness, where you feel like, again, where's your life's meaning, and what direction are you going in? And like, what's your sense of purpose? Right. And if you don't sustain that over time, and you keep on kind of wavering and weaving out in and out of that, you're going to lose your grounding. And I'm hearing that from you. I'm hearing that it's hard for you to sustain. Like, you could hear somebody on a podcast and you could be all revved up and motivated, and then a couple of days pass and you're back to where you started from, feeling kind of low, So I think, I think that is the most challenging part of all of us as human beings, is how do we sustain behavior over time? Because we could do things temporarily. We could lose weight. We could maintain, sustain our anger and frustration. We could be connected. We could, be focused on studying for something if we need to. But, really sustain behaviors and habits over time is really challenging. And then we get down on ourselves and we beat ourselves up, and then we get demotivated and etc. It's kind of like a spiral and a cyclical thing that happens with us, and then our mind kind of takes over. So that being said, what I do in my book, and I'm going to show you my book because I love the cover.
Yes.
I'm proud of it. Yes. I'm actually recording right now as we speak, the audiobook. So I'm very excited about that because I know for myself, I'm a big audiobook person. I hardly have time to read, and I listen to books when I'm getting ready in the morning and etc. So I'm very excited because I know that it's going to really be widely more available for more people, which is exciting. So the book, just to describe, and then I'll get back to answering your question, but the book is divided into 4 parts. The first section is really talks about our thinking. It's very, very important to know neurologically, physiologically, based on neurobiology and on neurocognition, why our brain thinks the way it does. And we really need that understanding in order to help ourselves and enhance and grow. The second chapter is based on our values. If we're not grounded in our values, and if we don't identify our values, we're not going to connect to what's going to sustain the behavior. Okay? Because we cannot control thoughts and feelings, only behavior. And I'm going to repeat that and repeat that. Okay.
Okay.
The second, third, and fourth parts talks about ACE stands for acceptance, compassion, and empowerment. So the first parts of each talk about the barriers. What is the barriers to acceptance, compassion, empowerment? And then the second chapters of each part talks about how to cultivate it. And it gives a bunch of exercises. At the end of each chapter, it gives a guided meditation, to integrate the information, and a lot of exercises to reinforce it. So the question that you have is, did you have a question?
Michelle, I apologize. I have the T-Mobile 5G network in reference to the home internet, and the live stream kind of and I admit it, and most of the time it does suck. So it cut us out. So I had asked to repeat what the first part of the chapter in reference to the ACE method.
Okay, sure. So you got the chapter on thinking and the chapter on values, right? Yeah.
I got
Okay. So the second, third, and fourth part.
Compassion.
Exactly. It's acceptance, compassion, and empowerment. Okay. Because if we have to think about, or if, that's the model I developed, is if we want a script for life, how to be our best self and live the life we want, it's really predicated on acceptance, compassion, and empowerment. If we integrate those skills, we're going to be on a path that we're going to be our best self and live the life we want. So each chapter, acceptance, compassion, empowerment, starts off with the barriers. What gets in our way of being able to integrate that information? And the barriers are vast. It's sociocultural, it's personal, it's based on experience, it's based on 1,001 factors. So that's all included. And then the second parts of each chapter talks about how to integrate those skills. And it gives a lot of exercises and information and research. And then it also gives at the end of each chapter a guided meditation to help you again sit and ground yourself and to integrate the practice. Again, I use a lot of examples from my own life, from those that I work with my clients. It's a pretty easy, understandable and user-friendly read. So I do want to say that.
Okay.
Now, we all have information, like I said, on how to do things. When I do workshops, sometimes I'll ask people, how many of you have lost weight? And everybody raises their hands, right? And then I'll say to them, how many of you have sustained it over time? All the hands go down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if you wind up asking all those that went up,
Okay, there you go.
Mine ballooned. I'm up to last check. It was 250 pounds,
Yeah.
and
It's hard to
um,
see behavior. Very
yeah,
hard.
yeah. Um, because one thing I've started to realize is as I'm getting upset, I get hungrier,
Yeah.
and instead of thinking of ways to get around the the feeling, I'll pick up ice cream or cookies or potato chips or whatever, or I'll make a sandwich or something just to shut me up.
Yeah.
And yeah,
It's a way to self-medicate, right? To
yeah,
anesthetize yourself. Sure.
yeah,
We
yeah,
all do that. We all do
yeah,
that.
yeah, and it I'm really deep down not even happy about that,
Yeah.
because that's something that I rarely ever did. I mean, when I was married, I was like 120 pounds,
Mm,
and that was 23 years ago.
yeah.
Um, you know, and to go probably double my size since then, and and actually filing the divorce, and going through, how you explained in your growing up, how the struggles you had. I had a controlled marriage, quote unquote,
Okay.
where my ex literally was like, how she tried to be like a Judge Dredd kind of
Okay.
character. She was like judge, jury, and executioner all in one.
Mhm.
And practically in so many ways, I was restricted so much. I couldn't, if I wanted to go somewhere, I was given like the least amount of money to go with,
Mm.
to where it wouldn't last, you know,
Yeah.
or in reference to, and that's what led to that barrier I mentioned earlier
Okay.
that I placed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so um, like I said, she had cheated on me, and I mean, really, really damaged.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So that kind of built into kind of where I'm at now. I've been, like I said, I've tried to fight. I'm not even supposed to use that word. That's based
Mm.
off that guest I told you about the other day. Um, I worked on being better,
Okay.
and and I actually started to feel good this time. I was like, I think I actually overcame it, and I'm ready to go forward this time. And I turned around and I opened up the barrier and I smacked myself in the face for it and went right back into it. I was like, here we go again. And then I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to work on it. I'm just going to let it go and literally literally put myself into isolation is what I was literally doing.
Yeah. Well, you were probably very depressed, I'm sure. Very
Yeah,
disappointed.
yeah.
Isolated, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression in 2009. So, I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But
Yeah.
all right. So let's get back to actually what I'm going to ask you
Sure.
is your definition of acceptance, compassion, of your ACE method.
So that's a big question just because I have a whole book on it.
Yeah.
But I'll try to make it concise and, and then again, people could read to find out more information. But, acceptance, many people think when they think about acceptance, they think about, relenting or resignating to like mediocrity, and that's not what I'm talking about. It doesn't mean that you have to just kind of accept who you are and how you are and kind of, just resign to kind of accepting that. It means really more about noticing, right? So if you really are in the noticing and being in the present moment with who you are, then you could notice not only things that you're challenged with, but also strengths you have. You could notice when there's opportunity for growth, right? And I give you all different kinds of ways and opportunities to be able to cultivate that. Okay. But there's a lot of things that work against us, such as the way we're raised, right? And so, in terms of the culture that we live in. So our culture dictates that we're always productive, and our culture dictates that we're always happy, and the culture dictates a lot of different things, which chronically and constantly make us feel poorly about ourselves. And it's a really, really uncomfortable space to be in. And then we beat ourselves up because we're not happy all the time. Nobody can be happy all the time. It's impossible, right? Like the full array of feelings are perfectly understandable and acceptable, and we have something to learn from each of our emotions. But there's the sense that we're supposed to be happy, and it's kind of this happiness trap.
Yeah.
And Russ Harris talks about that. He writes a good book on that called The Happiness Trap.
Okay.
So, or happiness toxicity, whatever you want to call it. It's called all different things in our culture.
Okay. When you mentioned this book, as I was thinking it, as you were explaining your definition of the ACE method in your book, one theory I came up with when it came to happy is, I've kind of, and like you said, part of the acceptance is noticing it. I noticed that when I was happy, I felt like I was going to get greedy, like I wanted more and more and more, and it got, it gets to the point where you're not going to get it. You fall flat on your face, and you're like, why? I'm supposed to have that, but so that's kind of why I try to I mention to myself most of the time now, people say, "Oh, you're gonna find someone." No, I won't. You're gonna be happy. No, I won't. Because if I get happy, I'm gonna get greedy. So that's and that, like, it's, like in reference to the acceptance, like, I'm noticing these things. Like I said, the one person that came into my life and opened it, literally just opened it and made me see everything that was going on. I mean, I was learning that I love to compliment people. So I've been very careful of, saying things that, or I try to, I do my best not to watch what I say. Like, and I'm saying this, and it's going to sound unprofessional. It may sound unprofessional for a moment.
Okay.
But I will say that you are truly beautiful. Okay. And now, yeah, people will turn around and be like, "Ooh, why did you just say that?" And take a look at me, and go off by looks, and because I've had people say I'm actually, people actually say I was creepy looking, and it really hit me on it. So that's rude. That's rude. Yeah. So I mean, it took that in. But when I would say something like that, like I just said to you, people would run because they got uncomfortable so fast. They were like, wanted nothing to do with me. And I mean, I wasn't even saying anything that was like really deep. I was giving like well, it could sound deep in some ways, and maybe someone took it as deep. Um, but in reference to it, though, it I really was just I like to compliment. As the last guest or second to last guest told me, literally, I was vulnerable.
That you're being vulnerable?
That I'm vulnerable. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I was like, and so yesterday, um,
Well, which is wonderful, right? It's good to put yourself out there and be vulnerable. That's part of
yeah,
what helps you to grow, right?
yeah. Well, I thought it did, and then it got carried away, and I got to the point where I started to realize, and like you said, in the definition of your method, the noticing, I caught myself and I said, you know what? No, no, that's it. I got too far, and I said I got to stop myself because who knows how out of control I could get from it. So I kind of worry about. I get to the point where, like I said, in reference to isolation, and I don't know if you've had clients that talk about isolation so much with you. And I apologize for bringing myself into this,
That's okay.
because it's something that's really getting to me, and it's kind of like people are thinking I'm looking for help. I kind of am, but at the same time, I'm kind of learning. Maybe this is what I'm doing. I'm picking out things that I see that maybe I could like figure out on my own how to get back into where
Well,
I can.
it sounds like breaking free of the hope, like we said, the helplessness, and the
Yeah,
hopelessness,
yeah,
right? Because that
yeah,
could happen. Well,
yeah.
which actually speaks to kind of the second part of the method, which is compassion.
Mm-hmm,
It sounds like self-compassion is hard to come by sometimes for you,
mm-hmm,
right? And it is for most people because we never ever learn how to be self-compassionate. We're expected to be that way, and we're taught again through social media, like self-love, self-compassion, self-belief,
mm-hmm.
self-efficacy, like all those fancy words, but we're not really taught how to do that,
Yeah.
and just
Mm-hmm,
because we look in the mirror and we say, I'm beautiful, I'm great, I'm wonderful, I'm, thoughtful, doesn't
yeah,
mean that we're going to actually believe it, and doesn't mean
yeah.
we're actually going to, right, carry through with
Right,
taking actions on behalf of that.
right.
So it's more about integrating that, and doing things on behalf of it so you could build your confidence. Once you build your confidence, you get to a space
Mm-hmm,
where you're acting and feeling better about yourself, and you're going to be better in your relationships. You're going to be better in your self-care. You're going to be better in striving to accomplish things and reaching your goals, right? So self-compassion will help you in your compassion towards other people, right?
mm-hmm,
And it's really important to learn how to do that,
mm-hmm,
right? I always say, like, a real sense of confidence is believing that no matter what you go through in your life, that you
mm-hmm.
have enough strength and resilience that you'll be able to survive, right? You'll be able to thrive. And
Right,
not everyone could say that.
right.
Like sometimes I'll ask people, if you died tomorrow, would you be satisfied with your life? Most people say no.
Yep. And matter of fact, that was brought up in the last with that second to last. Yes, if I was on my deathbed,
Yeah.
what would I want to realize before I went?
Uh-huh.
And me would have been like to really have forgiven myself, and I think that's like the hardest thing right now
Yeah.
is that self compassion, because
Well, you're also talking about self-forgiveness, right?
yeah.
And also, one thing to recognize, we go through things in life, but we
Mhm,
only have the knowledge because of what we went through.
Right.
So at the moment, whatever happened to you, I don't know what happened to you, of course, but whatever happened to you at the moment it happened to you, that's where you were at. You didn't
Yeah.
have the knowledge, the wherewithal, the maturity, whatever, to know
Mhm.
different. Now you know because you experienced it. You wouldn't have known otherwise.
Right.
So
Right.
it's forgiving that part of you that drew you to whatever experience you were drawn to. And it's
Mhm.
also recognizing that you could make a better future for yourself despite having that experience,
Okay.
right? So we kind of get stuck in this desire to making our past different, and we can't do that, obviously, right?
Right.
But
Mhm.
if you come to a place of forgiveness, and healing that part of you that responded in the way that it did during that time period.
Yeah.
And that's the real question.
Okay. All right. And in reference to empowerment, the third
Yes.
part.
Yes. So that's the part where I said before, where you are leaning in, right, to being your best self by doing, not by just sitting by idly, but really doing and acting on behalf of your values. So, the whole chapter is really dedicated, the integration is dedicated to how do you sustain behavior over time? How do you practice? And, because whatever you practice, you strengthen. That's just the way it is. The more you
Yeah.
practice, the more you strengthen. If you
Mhm.
practice anger, you're going to strengthen being angry. If you
Mhm.
practice kindness and love, that's what you're going to strengthen. That's just the way it
Mhm.
is. So
Yeah.
there's a whole slew of exercises that help you to maintain behavior. And we all slip. Nobody sustains behavior 100% of the time. So
Okay.
what to do when you slip? Because you don't want to fall. Slipping is
Right.
okay, but you don't want to fall. It's okay to slip for a week. It's not okay to fall for 3 months. There's a
Right.
big difference,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So when you understand the language, when you understand why you react the way you do or what compels that behavior, then you're able to make a change in your life.
Right. All right. All right. So I kind of ran out of questions, and I
Okay.
think I gave enough of my story. I really, it's not that I didn't want to share it, but I kind of like in
Yeah.
reference to like what I've been most of the guests that I've had on recently.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I'm picking brains.
Okay. Yes.
And not
Sounds like
only
sounds like you're trying to learn.
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
yeah, and not only am I trying to learn, I'm trying to have the viewers and listeners learn as well. Maybe they may see
Yeah.
things in their lives that they can pick out too.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Yeah.
one other thing that I will say about me is, and it's in reference to this podcast.
Okay.
I was to the point where I was going to give this podcast up. I may still give this podcast up at the end
Yeah.
of the month. And I mean, but I've learned that you know, I can still work on getting guests. I mean, that part's not the problem. It's like like I mentioned earlier about the unprofessionalism that comes out of it, and that compassion in the unprofessionalism. Um, but another thing that I turned around and I started to realize, and it actually came, it actually did come out um, a couple times,
Uh-huh.
and is I I was feeling like this podcast wasn't making a difference,
Mm.
you know, and you know because I wasn't seeing the proof, you know, and that was the main thing. It was if I was making a difference, I would love to know, because then I can turn around and say, okay, at least I know this is getting good. I can work on it, and
Uh-huh.
like you were saying, work on it and strengthen it and so
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
But it took. Now I've done this podcast now for 4 years. It took
Wow.
4 years. We're in season 5 now of this. Really, I think we're closer to season 6, but I don't count that first one. But kind of season 5. But it took that long to find out that I'm actually making a difference. It's just I'm not seeing it, and that's what threw me off on it. Because I'm like I said, I'm one of those that I want to see. I love I love when I hear when viewers are on YouTube and they turn around like, you're doing a great job,
Yeah.
or I get emails on the side saying you're doing a great job.
Yeah, that must feel really good.
Yeah. And I'm saying that's the like you were saying about the strengthening.
Yeah.
It's when I hear it or see it, then I can work with it.
Sure.
But if I don't see it, then it's like, why am I doing it?
Yeah.
So
totally get it.
Yeah. So I try to. It's more. It becomes mathematical after a bit. You have to have that proof to go with it, or you can say scientific proof, but just that, going off of that is what I'd rather have. I'd rather be told, Joey, I'm enjoying your podcast. Your guests are interesting.
Yeah.
But I've had one, and I know this person very well, has told me most of the guests I've had are like people that you want to go out with.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, interesting. I was like, I could say, yeah, they look beautiful enough to want to date, but at the same time, as I'm getting to know as I'm getting to know you and all the other guests I've had, I start to realize, they're in a relationship, so I've got to watch what I say when I do these things. So, I sometimes I try to bust chops, try to make it fun, all that within it. But, like I'm saying, is I try to watch how I present it.
Okay.
Because, like I said, in reference to the uncomfortableness, because as soon as I make somebody uncomfortable, it's like I start running because I want to get away from it before I make it worse.
Okay.
That
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
so any last questions?
No. I was going to tell you to promote yourself the rest of the way.
Sounds good. So again, I wrote this book, which I am very proud of, and I've gotten such, incredible feedback. So I'm so grateful. Ace Your Life, Unleash Your Best Self and Live the Life You Want, which is this book. Whoops. It's available on all Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, etc. And I hope it's going to be helpful for everybody. There's a lot of chock full of information in there. And like I said, the audiobook is going to come out this spring. I'm very excited about it. I also have a YouTube channel where I record guided meditations every Thursday at 11. So just had one published. Okay. And then I also am a Psychology Today blogger. So so happy to be here. And it was nice meeting you, Joey.
Yeah, it was nice meeting you too. And you're welcome to come on anytime if you have something that you want to promote. Yeah, just reach out and say, hey, Joey, get me on the podcast.
Sounds good.
Oh, matter of fact, let me bring this up for you. I'm going to make your day.
What?
This is somebody that I mentioned earlier. This is what she stated.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. So
she just ordered your book. So she'll have,
and I look forward to hearing what you think of it.
Yeah. Yes. And the crazy thing is, Michelle, I work at Amazon part-time. I work in the warehouse.
Oh, you do?
I work in the sortations, so I don't see your book coming by. If it is, it's in a box, so I don't see it.
Okay, sounds
But,
good.
again, thank you so much for coming
Yeah.
on.
So
And
nice meeting you.
yeah, and it was nice to meet you too. And like I said, anytime that you want to come on,
Thank you.
please reach out because
Thank you. Thank you.
you know the old story that reach out, I don't bite. So, all right, and everybody else, thank you so much for listening and watching.
Bye, everybody. Nice
All
to
right,
meet you. Okay.
enjoy it and have a great day. Take
You too.
care. All
Bye.
right, bye bye now.